Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we're looking at the Desert Apache. This is the Apache helicopter that the United States Army is using today. So, this was first released in the United States in 1992 as part of the Sonic Fighter series. It was unfortunately discontinued in 1993. Now, looking at the wonderful pictures that we get here at yojo.com and kind of starting off with our kind of headlining picture here, and unfortunately, it's not going to be much bigger than that. It looks very nice. Looks very much like the Apache should. And then we get to our box art, which is what our thumbnail is going to be. Um, a beautiful looking uh, ship to have. I think we only have, maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's only enough room for one, maybe two in there. Obviously I was not part of the group that was buying any of this stuff at this time of my life because I was, starting a family or off in the service and everything else. So, um, but it's nice to see this. I mean, it's got like a little handhold to go on the backside here. Um, Looks wonderful. Nothing to really knock. And actually, for stats, it does kind of help me in a lot of regards because I don't have to try and figure out what it should be. And sometimes, and you guys can tell me in the comments and everything else, if I'm getting it right, if I'm getting it wrong, where you think I should or shouldn't have things on some of the stats that I do. I try to keep it as close as I can to what it looks like it should be. But I do admit that sometimes I may get things a little off. And, there's times where I make up stats and then I'll look at it later on and I will say, yeah, that doesn't seem like it fits as well as it maybe should. So, you can always leave me comments. I enjoy the negative comments on how I read things and how I do things, and you know, just as much as I do the good comments. So, always feel free to give me a comment. It's always wonderful hearing from you. The hardest thing is quite often I'm doing this and I feel like I'm just kind of just talking to myself because I don't get to have the feedback. And sometimes it's just nice, one way or the other. All right. So the fun thing is when we look at this, we do have a price listed. So this was $16.99. So just shy of that $17 price tag. And it's kind of nice to see that. So we get to see how well this has gone as far as a price point. Now, getting back to our kind of front picture, and hopefully you guys can see this fairly well, it's got the handle that gets to go onto here. And it looks like you can take it off. So when you have it landed, it can be displayed without that handle on there. Uh, which it really makes it look wonderful. So whatever all of this is, that can all come off of there. So it loses that sonic kind of sound system that it's got, and it can just sit there on a shelf and look as pretty as the Apache should be, which is wonderful there. All right, with that, let's get on over to our kind of D6 stats here and see how well we do. Okay, so looking at the Desert Apache. Now I've got this at Walker scale, mainly because that's what it's really going up against is tanks and everything else, which I would then keep at Walker scale. Um, so I kind of left it at that. Now, the length is wonderful because I can just grab the Apache itself, and the Apache's got the length of 58.17 feet or 17.7, I think it's 7.3 meters. Uh, just keeping it at 17.7 meters. Has a crew of two, no passengers. We're going to keep our cargo capacity of 45 kilograms. Let's see. We have a altitude range, as I move our picture over just a little bit here, um, of 20,000 feet or 6,000 meters. We do have a maneuverability. I kept it about a 2D plus 2. Our movement speed. Now, the Apache can actually go 186 miles per hour or 300 kilometers an hour, keeping it at a body strength of 2 because it's at Walker scale, trying to keep it as light as we can and everything else. You know, Two seemed like a very good, safe bet to have it as. Now, it might be a little on the light side for it. I don't know how truly resilient it is. I know that there's many of them that have taken a lot of damage and all that stuff. But to tell you the truth, for some of the documentaries that I've seen on the Apache, which is not very many, I think I've only seen about two of them. I really don't know what to put for a body strength to say if it should be higher or not. So if you think it should be higher, please change it and make it higher for yourself. Okay, so we do have our blaster cannon, our cannon underneath here. I believe that might be a 50 caliber. Um, let's see. That's going to be at speeder scale, and I have it at a 7D. Now, the reason why I put it at speeder scale is because if it is a 50 caliber, we might be shooting troops with it. We might be shooting tanks or light vehicles or whatever else. Most notably, I figure it's going to be speeder or lesser scale vehicles. Um, so more of your armored cars and trucks and everything else. So for that, I wanted it at a lower scale. The damage is going to be listed as a little higher, but our fire control being able to go up or down a little bit, it's not going to be as hard to hit an infantry person. If I have it at a walker scale, it's going to be darn near impossible to hit someone on the ground doing a strafing maneuver. At least with this being at speeder scale with the fire control of 2D, if I'm shooting or strafing at uh, just on foot combatants, it's strictly off of my own gunnery skill. It's not going to be with the assist of the uh, systems that are on board because it's got like thermal and it's got all the other things, which really would be helpful. But I will admit, when you're trying to shoot a smaller target, which is what we're kind of going with, it might make it a little bit more difficult. So it might be a little bit more of your personal aiming ability on that. And I really didn't want to knock it by making it a Walker scale and then almost making it purely impossible or almost impossible because you would have a -2 dice to try and hit a person on the ground. Uh, just kind of leaving it at that and why I put it that way. Now, we do have the 4 heavy missiles, so we have the 4 missiles on the side. I figured those are heavier missiles, more starfighter scale, meant to take out other helicopters, maybe a low flying plane if you're lucky or whatever. Um, so, an air to air missile. Fire control is 4D, laser guided, or however we want to call it. So 7D is our damage, which I've kind of done the standardizing of a lot of the missiles and everything. Um, so we have those. And looking at the picture, we have, and I'm going to say this, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, possibly like the Hellfire missiles, the air to ground missiles, and then those are going to be at Walker scale. So we have 8 of those, seeing that it looks like there are 4. But when I actually looked at the the model itself originally, it looked like there was only 4 of them in all. Um, Looking at the box art, I've got 8 of them. So we'll run with 8 of them, seeing that that's how the box art is. I'm happy to have 8 of them. These are air to ground anti tank weapons, missiles. Again, we're going to have a fire control of 4D because I believe that would be a laser or some sort of guided missile, and a 7D damage as well, giving it quite a bit of teeth here. So we have one weapon that's good for trucks and anti personnel, another one that's going to be really good for our tanks, and another one to help defend it against any other airplanes or helicopters or whatever else. Gives it a nice rounded out kind of attack platform here as they're going into combat. Um, the Apache is iconic now to the Army because the Army is no longer using the Huey Cobra or for the GI Joe, the Dragonfly, but the Marines are using it, and they've upgraded to what is now the Viper, which I don't know, maybe called maybe the Super Dragonfly or something like that in GI Joe terms. But it's kind of nice to see how things have changed. Um, I do kind of like the look of the old Huey Cobra, mainly because growing up in that's what was the primary helicopter at the time, especially for Vietnam and all that stuff. So, the Apache has definitely earned its stay in the Army, and I'm not going to bash it. It's still a nice looking machine. Um, and as things upgrade to what things need to be in the future, we'll have to see how things go moving forward and what they come up with next. But at least for now, we still have the Huey Cobra, or the Huey Viper now, for the Marine Corps, and the Apache for the Army. However we want to look at it, GI Joe being neither, because they are a anti-terrorist force that uses whatever they have at whatever base, whether it leans more one way or the other, or as I've really stated in the past, it's a great unit to test out new machinery, whether it works or doesn't work. They can put it into real world situations that most Army or Marine Corps units during a peacetime or whatever else may have a harder time doing. And whether that stuff becomes something that goes into the mainline forces, adopted by one unit or another, is up to them. But at least the GI Joe force gets to try out all the experimental stuff and see how good or bad it may be. With that being said, thank you for joining me today. It's wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.